item number 7, we are now ready, excited. Drum roll, please. Human Resource Annual Staffing Report. That was a weak drum roll. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Chambers, Board of Trustees. I get the honor and privilege to present to you our annual staffing report. Some of the things that we will be talking about tonight are factors affecting staffing, and that's the part that we're going to be talking about, the shortage that we're seeing throughout the region, the state, and the nation. And knowing that the shortage is real and it's growing and it's worse than we thought it'd be. And when I present the numbers to you in a little bit, you'll see that in just a few minutes. Then we're going to talk a little bit about our current teacher demographics, then things that we're doing to help retain our teachers, what things we're doing to recruit, and how we're trying to be competitive with our compensation, and then a summary at the very end, and I'll be answering any questions that you may have. So each year I share with you the Texas Education Agency information that they provide us, and they talk to us a little bit about what the state does and what the region does. So if you'll take a look at the chart above, you'll see that the state is on the right-hand column and the region is on the left. So the projected enrollment, they always tell us what they anticipate the kids, and this is kind of how we do it in our district. We do a projected enrollment. How many teachers are we going to need? What teacher turnover rate, so if you'll see what the region is, their turnover rate, they had 12,862, which was about a 17% turnover rate. We do the same thing. We looked at our turnover rate. We're at 13% turnover rate. Then the next column is how many teachers they retain, and then how many new positions, and then what they actually need. So if you'll look at the column that says needed to be filled, 13,760. So of the 13,700 teachers, they tell us which ones are coming from the traditional route and then the non-traditional route. So when we think of traditional, we're thinking of university, and when you think of non-traditional or non-certified, they're usually coming through an ACP, or they're coming from out of state that they haven't yet gotten their certification, but they're able to teach and get a probationary and get ready to teach. So those are the different categories. So in the state in the region, we have about 20% of our teachers that are certified versus 71% that are non-certified. If you'll remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, we were at 50-50. Now we're saying for the non-certified, we have 70% versus 20 out of the traditional. They come out of the traditional field. So that's a big change in what we've seen in the past, meaning that we have to do things differently. We can no longer do the recruiting through the universities. We have to be creative of how we're going to recruit. And then you'll see at the very bottom where it says still vacant, and those positions are, just as Mr. Chambers mentioned, that sometimes you get to a point where you anticipate your teachers, but you cannot fill them because they're not out there. So the state does have 9% of the teaching field not filled. They have substitutes or other type people in those classrooms. So I thought it was important for you to see what it does through the state, that they are seeing what we're seeing at a worse rate than what we're seeing, but it is something that we're constantly having to look at. In Alief, currently we have, from our new teachers that we've hired, 41% are from a traditional program and 59% from a non-traditional program. So if you think about in terms of what kind of supports they need, those are the things that we're seeing that are occurring on our campuses that we need to put more attention to and provide more resources for. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Another factor that I thought would be important for you to know is nationwide, statewide, the higher the rate of poverty the campus it has versus low poverty campuses, you're going to see more certified teachers and in low poverty. You're going to see more certified, more years of experience, more education levels versus the ones that are in high poverty, and that's just what the stats tell us. So knowing that, we also have to be very intentional about making sure we staff our high poverty campuses with strong qualified teachers. And then each year TEA also puts out, they look at which areas are going to be shortages so that we're aware of that, and we can do different things like like provide stipends or do some recruiting early on. And they provide us with a list of areas that are going to be shortages. So for this school year, it's bilingual ESL, which it has been for the last 5 years. CTE courses, pretty much any of the CTE courses, and that's why we've been allowed to do the district certification because of that shortage. Computer science, tech applications, math, science, and special ed. In our district, we did see, and I think throughout the region, a big increase in our special ed population, so we did see even more of a shortage in special ed this year. Our current teacher demographics of the people that were leaving, so all the teachers that we had leave, we had 425 teachers leaving. That was 13%, and if you'll recall, it was 17% for the region. So we're doing fairly well. Actually, we're doing very well in our retention. But so that you know which teachers are leaving, if you will look at the years, I've put up the stats up there for the demographics, but if you look at the years of experience, so our 0 to 5 in education, meaning our brand new teachers from 0 to 5, we have 39% of our teachers leaving. So of the teachers, of the 425 teachers leaving, 39% of them have 0 to 5 years experience. And if you know Alief, we do the 3 years of Alief U. We spend lots of time and money and support on the teachers, and then we get them all prepared, and then they leave. And so that's a big concern for us. If you look at the next column, you can see how long they've been in Alief. And it just shares the same kind of information. They're Alief only, Alief experience. 0 to 5, we had 58% of the teachers leave were Alief. So our brand new teachers that we hired from college or from their first year, 58% of them left from 0 to 5 years. And then as you go down 6 to 10, it gets smaller numbers, 21%, 11 to 15. So the longer they stay, the fewer that leave. I did want you to see our current teacher demographics. We have about 3,200 teachers, so 3,200 teachers. Of all teachers, we try to, as we are recruiting and trying to bring in our teachers, we always look at our student demographics to see if we can mirror that with our teacher demographics. It's very difficult, but we do make attempts to do that. So I put that information in there so you can see the comparison of our teachers versus our student demographics. And then the years of experience in education. So currently, our current teachers that we have here in Alief, 3,200 of them, we have years of experience. They have 0 to 5, 34% of our teachers have 0 to 5 years. 6 to 10, 19%. 11 to 15, 17%. So you see the same trends. A few more years in the 0 to 5. So we have a lot of brand new teachers. And then years in Alief, you see the same trend, starting at 46%. 18% going from 6 to 10. So that's good information for us as we are preparing for staff development and how to help coach our teachers. That gives us good information. For our retention, I did want to show you that we are, like I said, in the region, I compared the districts around us, we're at 13.2. Region 4 was at, the districts I compared was at 16.4, but again, the region is at 17%, so we did fairly well with our retention strategies. One of the things that we did differently this year is we provided an exit survey through the K-12, but we didn't get the information that we needed from K-12, not all of it, so when we had the opportunity to recreate one, we created our own exit survey, and we asked questions in more detail. And when we asked the questions on the first part of the chart that says main reason for leaving, that would be their #1 reason for leaving. So if for every teacher that left, or excuse me, this is for all staff, not just teachers. For everybody that left the district, we said, what was your main reason? And their main reason, which I was glad to see, was retirement at 18.5%, because that's something that is out of our control. They were ready to retire. The second reason was location, and the third, opportunity. So all of those reasons are things that are personal to them. But of course, we know there's more information that we need to ask. So we said, okay, that was your main reason, but what are your other reasons that we can work on? What are other things that helped you decide to go? I know your main reason was for this reason, but a second reason may be, and you'll see the opportunity for advancement. That was one of them. So it was at 21% of the people said opportunity for advancement. So the columns on the right were their other reasons. It could be, they could have had 10 reasons, and so we listed all 10. But using this data, what we did is we said, okay, there are things that we have control over and things that we don't have control over. Based on the things that they put on here that we do have control on, what can we do differently so that we can retain? So the first thing was looking at our culture, working conditions. We always want our employees to be happy. So this year we're using the top workplace survey. We're using the information from that. We will be working with each campus and each department, and we will be providing them with a protocol to review it with their staff, as well as creating goals to help improve the areas that they pick. We're going to ask them to pick 3 areas for improvement based on their culture survey, and then give us some strategies of how they're going to do that. The other thing we do is we talk to our staff. Mr. Chambers has a superintendent teacher advisory committee. We've increased it from 1 person from each campus to 2, so we get more input from teachers. So each time we meet, we ask them to bring any concerns or questions or things that they want to talk about that we can hear from them. So there is a representative from each campus. So we hear what they have to say, and then we hope to make some changes. One of the things last year, Mr. Chambers kept asking the question, what do you need for us to support you? One of the things we heard was our student behavior, a lot of emotional issues with our students. And as you saw in our budget this year, we did add a unit for a counselor for the district. So he uses the information they provide us so that we can provide support. The other thing that they mentioned was student behavior. So he's allowed us to hire some dedicated subs to be able to be putting in the classrooms where they're needing extra support. So based on that, that's one way we thought we can help with the working conditions and help with resources for our teachers. The other thing that last year we did our focus group, so we worked some campuses and asked them, what are things that we can do? If we can take anything that we can do to help your life be easier as a teacher, because we know the work that you do is very difficult. They mentioned that they needed more planning time. So Mr. Chambers, after the board had already approved the board calendar, came back to you to ask you, can we provide them some planning days? So he came back and asked for a change. So that's all based on feedback from our staff. And then the last thing was looking through these, a lot of it was talking about that, through the surveys we noticed our leadership, we need, they would like more support from that. So some of the things that we're doing differently this year, Janine's department is doing the Covey training. Janine's department also does AP training, new principal trainings, aspiring principals trainings, and then something new that we did this year as well is we asked, as we went to our HR visits, we asked them what kind of trainings can we support you. And some of the things that they brought to us were crucial conversations. So we're going to be doing crucial conversations with principals and administrators and leaders. And so these are things that we're doing to help with the working conditions that we know that we can help retain. The other thing we saw, and you can see in here, was compensation. As you remember, last year was a year that we didn't give the raise. Well, we saw it in our surveys. They mentioned that that was an issue. Well, this year that shouldn't be an issue because we gave a nice raise this year. But we are going to be looking at how to be comparable to other districts. So I'll be working with TASB. In fact, October 23rd, they're coming down to speak to us to start our survey, our district. They're going to be working with us to look at our salaries and making sure that we're paying what we should be paying. And then the last thing was in May, we not only did we want to talk to the staff that was leaving and the teachers through the other formats, we also wanted to hear from our supervisors. So we did our principal survey and asked what can we at central office do to support you, and I've shared that information with you in the past. So again, some of the things that we're doing for retention are the Houston Chronicle Top Workplace Survey results. We are going to be meeting with our staff. In fact, at ALT, we're going to go give them an overview of what that looks like, and then we're going to ask each department and campus to pick 3 things, 3 grows, 3 flows, and come up with some strategies for the flows. Professional developments, things that they've asked for through conversations through staff, student issues, and then our ELL students. We have students that are struggling and teachers are feeling they're behind level. We need more support. So as you can see, these are the trainings that we provided. New to this is the special education. We're providing a lot more special education training for in-class support training so that the teachers can get more support there. Like I said, some of the things we're intentionally trying to make sure we have a supportive management environment. Mr. Chambers is very open to feedback from our staff, and as we receive it, we work on it. Provide leadership opportunities. One of the things that we saw in the surveys is they want more opportunities. Even though we can't have administrative positions, we do provide leadership opportunities through our specialists in other areas. So those are things that we're trying to do to provide them those leadership opportunities where they can learn how to coach people and they get those leadership skills. Keeping up with our educational technology. Wally's department's great about providing support to campuses with the technology. We're always constantly studying incentives and other programs and what can we do to either better pay or for our attendance so that we can keep people. Provide a mentor program with new teachers. Our PD department does a great job with that. One of the things we saw last year was our ACP. With such high numbers of ACP hires, we had to do some extra support with that. So we had Patricia Grady and her team working on that. Support teachers on disciplinary issues. That's one of the main things that they had concerns with. We hired somebody part-time that will be doing, Karen Smith has been hired and she will be going out coaching. So not only are we doing the PASS specialist, but she's going to be working with us on difficult campuses so that we can provide that. And then supplemental staffing to support teachers and students. Just as I mentioned earlier, if we see that there's a unique situation that requires more staffing, we look at that individually and we do provide some extra staffing for that reason. One of the downfalls with the retention, as you can see, we talked about waivers. As Mr. Chambers mentioned, it's not just the Region 4, it's not just Alief, there is a true teacher shortage. And because of that, it's not only is it that we can't hire the teachers, they're not out there to hire. So we have to think of, and I mentioned earlier, that the ACPs are the ones that we're actually hiring. So it's not out of the traditional, that's how we typically recruit through the university. So we're looking at new ways of recruiting so we can entice other people to come into the education field. And some of those ways are, like I said, university job fairs, but we're doing partnerships like Taffy. I'm working with Taffy, and they're trying to, as they grow those teachers, we hire them as paraprofessionals and then we hire them as teachers when they come back. We work with Relay. Currently, we did it with our 2 dual language camp at Leeseman. We have 2 teachers with dual language that they're working on a resident program there, as well as all of our pre-K, full-day pre-K, have residents. So we're working with our early childhood to do the Relay, which means that they have interns. So we've hired them in those classrooms in hopes that after this school year, those people that are interns will now be teachers. And so the next year, they're guaranteed a job with us. They have to tell us, yes, I'll stay with you and be a teacher. So that's another way that we're doing it. I Educate, that's a program that's currently working with college students. They bring college students to come work with our students. Currently we have them in 3rd and 4th grade. I think we have them at Sneed, Horn, and Smith. And they're college students that are being paid through grants. We're not paying them, they're being paid through grants to come and teach or mentor our students. They're with our kids all day, and we even provide training to those mentors, somewhat like what we do with our Taffy students, so that they're getting the CHAMPS training and the STOIC training, all the things that we're doing here, we provide that training to those I Educate mentors as well. Competitive teacher salary, we're constantly looking at that. Just as I mentioned, Tasby's coming in to help us do a study on that to see if we're competitive, and where we're not, we'll be making recommendations to the board. We're trying to increase our presence on social media in different places, Glassdoor, different places, because it's not the typical teaching recruiting anymore, so we're looking at different places to post. And then communication plan, we're trying to beef up our website so that it's more enticing to individuals looking for employment. Again, compensation, as you can see, we're one of the highest districts in the area that in compensation. The only, pretty much all of the surrounding districts were higher than. There's one that's Galena Park, I think, is right with us, but other than that, we're right at the top. So competitive-wise, we are there this year. We did a very nice job with that. As I mentioned, our TASB study, they're starting October 23rd, but basically they'll be looking at all of our job fields, not just teachers. They'll be looking at all our job areas, and then they'll be looking to see where we need to make adjustments so that we're more competitive. Some of the areas that we do see that we need to look at are possibly areas that require different kinds like welding and that are unique, that are not typically in school business, computer, our bus drivers. There are certain areas that we know we need to look at, so we'll be looking more specifically at some of those areas, but they'll look across the board at everything. And then once we get the recommendations and we come up with some things that we'd like the board to approve, we'll bring it to you to see if we can go forward with making some changes for next year. The other thing that we're doing, and we're aware of this, is our Effective Educator Compensation Task Force. Just as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, I mentioned that the teachers that are the most difficult to find are for those campuses that have the highest poverty rate, that are the most challenging campuses are harder to get the teachers to stay. So we believe that the more, if we can pay these teachers more and provide better resources to them, that they can serve our most challenging students that need them, the neediest students that need them most. So that's something that we're looking at with the committee. As you know, we're being very inclusive of all the different groups, the teacher groups, the teachers and principals, and we're inviting lots of people to help us make this decision. We'll be making a recommendation to the board, hopefully for next budget year. And in summary, I just again want to mention that yes, the shortage is real, and not only is it real, it's growing, and it's worse than we ever thought it was. So as Mr. Chambers mentioned, we just have to be creative, we have to think outside of the box. We're very fortunate to be in Alief because a lot of people want to work with us. We've got a lot of partnerships that other districts don't have that opportunity, so we're finding different ways, but we need to continue to do that. We also need to look at our compensation and really look at future raises, as you mentioned earlier, number of teachers that we hire, and will it put us more money for raises or less money for raises? Those are things that we have to make decisions about. And then again, knowing that the shortage is real, TEA is finally realizing it, and they're going to be putting some funding to help us with that. But again, we just have to find the teachers. I mean, if they provide the funding and there are no teachers, that's not gonna help us. So we just got to recruit some stronger quality teachers that are willing to come and teach. So basically, if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions for you, but I hope that I provided a presentation that makes you understand what our needs are.
I have one question.
Sure.
We're having the same problem with substitutes, aren't we?
Absolutely. When the economy's good, we do have shortage in subs. So we've done a lot of things. We don't provide PD. I mean, Ava's done a great job of trying to narrow down the PD, so we're not pulling teachers off campuses. We're trying to do it on weekends, after hours. So, yes.
So I have a question. So where you showed like the retention and the exit survey, that's for all staff, correct? That's not for just teachers?
That's correct.
So do you have that data for teachers and why they're leaving?
So we created, yeah,
248 of them leaving because you're at 5. It'd be interesting to see if it's.
so like I said, we created the survey ourselves, so I'm working on trying to pull it together. I'm gonna see that I can do that, and if I can, I'll provide that to you. It depends on how I ask the questions on there, so I'll have to look.
Any other comment? I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ms. Dr. Powell, for the presentation. And you made me think about a lot of the changes that's happening with TEA right now, with the Fit to School framework, with coaching teachers. All of those things are playing a role because somewhere down the line we finally figured, rather than escorting them out the door, we would try to coach them to stay.
Absolutely.
So, and it's unfortunate. I think when I started hearing about growing your own, we were one of the first districts to talk about growing our own. And now, Mr. Chambers, you know as well as I do, everywhere we go, everyone thinks that they have the best program ever. But we're way ahead of the game because we've already had, 2 cohorts?
Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're meeting with iEducate and Taffy and putting them together so that they hire our kiddos. So we're working with them to
Yeah,
bring
so
it back.
and that is the innovation, because things like that was never thought of or heard of. It was already a struggle. Most people get upset when they talk about having alternative teachers in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've gotten away from this whole thought of, oh, you have to go through, because we're finding even those teachers coming straight out of the classroom are just not prepared.
You're exactly right.
So.
You're exactly right.
The solution to this problem are in our elementary, intermediate, and middle schools right now. It's our kids.
Absolutely.
That's the solution.
Yeah. And
There is no other quick fix to this.
And it's encouraging them, because when you ask the average CTE student what their goals are, they're still on engineering and everything, but you'll hardly hear any of them talk about education. And I think it's because they're looking at what's going on in their classrooms and finding, I jokingly tell a student, oh, you're teasing me today, you're gonna be a teacher 10 years from now.
I think, and Elizabeth mentioned, and y'all are aware of this, but our TAFE program under Ms. Lotsby from Taylor High School is as strong it's as strong a TAFE program as I've ever seen. And not only in numbers, but just in quality and experiences she and the other teachers that support her. That's where your answers are. And I think that, we have a couple of hundred students who are working in our comic program, volunteering in the after-school program. So we're exposing them to it. The trick, if you will, is how do you convince them this is a career or a degree plan that you want to go into in school, or a career that you want to pursue. And unfortunately, and sometimes we're guilty of it, you know, we inflict our own self-wounds. Sometimes the education career is not seen as we don't put they put it in the best light. Society doesn't do it. Heck, we've got our own staff members who go out and tell their kids, their own personal children, don't go into education. And so I don't mean to lecture anyone on this. I'm just saying, if we're going to solve this problem, and it's a big if, but if it's going to be solved, it's going to be solved with those little ones that are elementary and middle schools right now.
And through our partnerships, I think that innovative, in fact, what Dee's doing with Alabama, we're looking at trying to make sure that we're utilizing any of those colleges that will be willing to give scholarships, because our kids need the money to go to school.
Absolutely, and
So
that's what I was gonna say, that's different than other programs as well, is the fact that we're removing this barrier of cost.
Correct.
You know, because many students do not look forward to going into education, and, you know, everybody can't get into Alief, it's unfortunate, and the other districts are not compensating as well.
And we've done with our bilingual student teachers, that's really helped us keep those teachers, but it's just finding different ways.
Well, thank you so very much for the conversation and the presentation, it was a great job.
And I just want to publicly thank Elizabeth and Daryl and the entire HR team. They're killing themselves trying to solve this problem. And it's appreciated, it really is.
Thank you. On that, now we will look at item number 8, the bond construction updates.